Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on News Abata Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, bleak future awaits workers as SNIT reserves projected to be depleted in the next 12 years. We have details for you from the latest report by the International Labour Organization.
Also coming up in the next 90 minutes, ECG staff to hold emergency meeting over Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah's refusal to render an apology for his role in the arrest of regional ECG boss.
Also, Inspector General of Police George Akrofi Dampare warns that the police will deal decisively with persons who threaten the country's peace and stability during the upcoming elections.
Much later, NPP candidate to win a Jusoba election by 3% margin. That's according to Global Info Analytics. We'll bring you details shortly.
The murder desolators also in the business world and sports and entertainment coming up for the next 1 hour 30 minutes with Campaign Trail here on your election command center. Grace Omojiman is here with a summary of the news. Grace.
Alfred, let's get right into it. The International Labour Organization, ILO, has projected a complete depletion of SNIT's reserve by 2036. This was revealed in an actuarial valuation study of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust viability. According to the ILO, total income, including contributions, investment income, and other income, will no longer be sufficient to pay for annual expenditures, including benefits payment to pensioners by 2029. SNIT, having no other means of payment, will depend on the reserves. It has to meet the payment demand, leading to the start of the depletion process. Away from that, calls for Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah to apologize to the EC's regional manager for causing his arrest has intensified among staff of the company. On Wednesday, the offices of the Electricity Company of Ghana were draped in red as part of a series of protests to force the minister to accede to their demand and apologize to Mark Asmeniwia fee, but the minister has rubbished the call, saying he would not apologize for doing his work. Addressing the media, Simon Osei-Mensah justified why he directed the police to invite the ECG manager. And parents of wards in public basic schools should brace themselves to pay more for uniforms. This is because the education minister has hinted of plans to change the brown and yellow uniforms for basic schools in the country. According to Dr. Yaweduchum, this is part of many transformational initiatives to revive basic education and make it attractive in the country. The minister also hinted of a change in the color of the outlook of basic schools in the country to blue and white. That's it for the summaries.
Grace, thank you so much for a summary of the news. There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. And this is Hot Edition on 3FM. We're live as well on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's get into why, if you're a worker right now, you should be concerned about the happenings to your SNIT pension contributions.
Indeed, and if you're hoping to survive on your pension contributions upon retirement, you may have to think again. This is because the reserves of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust SNIT will be depleted in 12 years' time. That's by 2036. And that's according to the latest actuarial valuation study conducted on SNIT by the International Labour Organization, ILO. The ILO says that total income, including contributions, investment income, and other incomes, will no longer be sufficient to pay for annual expenditures. And by 2036, the reserve would drop to zero. The report projects that SNIT, having no other means of payment, would depend on the reserves it has to meet the payment demand, leading to the start of the depletion process. This is likely to continue until 2036, when the reserve will drop to zero. The valuation attributes this development to the delay in payment of contributions by the government. Let's bring you some more details. As of December 31, 2021, total indebtedness amounted to 9.35 billion cedis. That's 73.7% of the indebtedness, which translates to 6.9 billion cedis. It was due to the late payment of contributions by the government. Now, the reserve ratio, which is the end of year reserve over the annual expenditures for the year, moves from 3.4 to 0 between 2021 to 2036. Let me bring you some ramifications, and Alfred, there are some more that I'm sure you'll bring to us. At this point, under ramifications, the scheme can no longer pay pension benefits if there are no contributions, no investment income, and no other income.
And that's how troubling this is. And talk about recommendations by the International Labour Organization. They say the current module is unsustainable for the foreseeable future. SNET must stop adjusting pensions to salary growth. Instead, it should be adjusted to inflation to be more sustainable. So that's the recommendation of the ILO, that SNET must stop adjusting pensions to salary growth, but rather they must adjust it to respond to the inflationary rate in this country. And that, for them, ILO is projecting that to be a more sustainable approach to the scheme as is being run at the moment. Setabloso is Acting General Secretary of the Professionals and Allied Workers Union. He's also a labor consultant. He's joining us on the telephone for a quick conversation on this matter. Setabloso, appreciate your time here on Hot Edition. Certainly, this must come as a worry to all of us, getting to know that as of the end of 2021, the total indebtedness of SNET was 9.35 billion Ghana cedis, and all things being equal, this figure has gone up because this is as of 2021, and almost 74% of that indebtedness, translating into 6.9 billion, was due to late payments of contributions. This is worrying, to say the least, is it not?
Yes, indeed, Alfred. It is extremely worrying, to say the least.
And
it is actually a wake-up call to labor and employers organizations, because this situation of government's continued indebtedness, which is negatively impacting the scheme, needs to be addressed. And it's about time we had a national conversation on the revised SNET, the introduction of the 3-tier pension scheme, 10 years plus after its introduction. We got into this, it became effective in 2010. So we've gone a little over a decade. We need to have an assessment of the impact, because clearly many workers don't see this in their living. Their pensions have not improved. Many pensioners, in fact, calling for a return to, wish they had a return to PNDC law 247. And this is critically what we need to address. Now, how do we deal with government as an employer continuously owing the scheme? And then coupled with that is, for instance, the recent changes in the... You see, SNET doesn't belong to the government. It belongs to workers and pensioners, those whose monies are there. And this, Mr. B.J. Darota has clearly underlined this, that it does not belong to government. So government cannot get in to do changes and not be responsible for the reasons for. So it's a very worrying development and a wake-up call to workers and employers organizations. In fact, private employers who contribute more to SNET than their workers, to ensure that their monies don't go down the drain. Because as we speak, pensioners are in the poverty bracket. Nothing has changed for the better.
One other area of concern is the investment portfolio of SNET itself. And I recall this about 2 years ago, I had to go into this investment portfolio with a paper on this matter, and if you look at some of the places and sectors that SNIT has invested pensioners' money in there, for instance, some of the hotels that are being run down and posting losses over the last 5 years, owned by SNIT, and this is technically owned by pensioners in this country. And if these investments are returning losses, directly impacts on the pensioners' welfare, is it not?
Oh, certainly. It impacts negatively on them. And over the years, one of the major concerns has been the investment portfolio of government and of state. And the realization is that many investment decisions have been influenced by government. And it's about time this change. And you see, change particularly because with the introduction of the National Pension Act 766, workers and have majority representation on the board of SNIT. The overbearing has been scaled down. So it's like workers' representations not living up to expectation. Because this report, for instance, should be a report that must be for state workers' leaders. A conversation started on it. We can't wait and look for the ship to sink.
Let me acknowledge the presence of Angel Kabano, who is the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT. Mr. Kabano, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good afternoon.
Great.
Ms. Ablosu, this is Beatrice. We've just spoken about the government indebtedness, and indeed, we're looking at the warning coming from the ILO. I mean, this has gone on for so long. With your knowledge, why do you think it's persisted that it had to take the ILO to come in to say that if you don't deal with this problem, this is where you're heading towards come 2036?
It's persistent because I regret to observe that government. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Abloso, please.
Because I regret to observe that government hasn't shown sufficiently that it cares, that it cares enough for pensioners. In 2018, President Baumia inaugurated a committee to look at how to deal with inequity and inequality in pensions in Ghana. April 2018. We are in April 2024. There's been no public indication of the outcome of that study. And the Vice President himself hasn't spoken about it since then. So government is not showing sufficiently that it cares. And it's up to workers' leaders to rise up to their responsibilities.
Aren't you surprised? Aren't you surprised that over the period, these workers, leaders that you talk about, have not risen against this? Because when the government started a domestic debt exchange and the pensioners were going to be touched, and indeed you were touched, you protested and you saw the movements, the back and forth from the side of the government. This should have also been a priority for the workers, leaders that you talk about.
Yes, of course. I'm hoping that now that the threat is glaring in the face, they wake up to their obligation. Some time back, then Dr. Atumba addressed the Premier Day lecture, where he wondered publicly why workers, leaders, or unions are so docile in the face of challenges that they face.
Well, Mr. Abloso, you talk about the leaders of these unions being docile. Well, I have Enjo Kabono to respond to that for you because it's been on for quite a while. I know he has to leave us. But Mr. Kabono, now, if I just wanted to respond to this particular position as espoused by Mr. Setablo, so that the leaders of the unions, for instance, NAGRAT, CCT and others, have not been forthright and very forceful in demanding that the right things be done with respect to Senate contributions.
Yes, to a large extent, I will agree with him. But don't forget that these functions of unions also reflect the mood and the temperature of our society. You know, when you have a society where a journalist sits on radio as a host of a program, and all that he does is to be protecting a government in power, when you criticize the government on the radio program of that host comes at you. Next time you are not even brought to that radio station, and we look at that host of a program and we praise him or her. When you have a situation where when you react, you have civil society trying to come at you and blame you for creating too much tensions in the country, or reverend ministers of churches, you have chiefs. So it's a factor or a mirror reflection of the type of spirit for ourselves. You have a politician and people think that the politician should be worshipped, glorified, and adored. So you have our situation. But I agree. We could have been more militant and forceful than we have been. But you see, this problem is caused by who? The people we elect to superintend over us. You elect people to come and solve your problem, and they themselves become the problem. You elect, yes. So the problem is the politicians we have elected, who themselves come to power and create more problems for us. And after 4 years, we jump onto the stage and praise them. They lie to us. Our sense of analysis is blunt. So we vote them into power once again, and then they come and do the same thing. Look, the SNIT problem and the problem of a lot of financial institutions in this country is that government takes money and government refuses to take the money to the organization for the organization to invest the money prudently. That is it. So you have a situation where government can direct SNIT to invest in very frivolous and very, very questionable projects. Projects that yielded SNIT no return. You know, so SNIT pumps even the little money government transfers to it into projects in this country. And you have the projects have not returned anything beneficial to SNIT. Now, the monthly amount of money government is supposed to regularly and timeously send to SNIT, government is not doing it. And government does not see the need to do it. And government is engaged in very highfalutin, uneconomic projects that gives political, that gives what we describe a titillating political feeling and not anything beneficial. Grown-up men and women, old men and women engage in frivolity. That is what brings us where we find ourselves.
And you see, Mr. Kabano, getting to know, and this concern very well stated, but getting to know the details of this ILO report that based on its actual valuation, SNIT reserves are expected to reach zero by 2036. I am sitting here by 2036. I'm not going to be retired. I'm sure all things going to go by then. So I'm thinking about my pensions now. And for you as well and your members, I mean, this certainly is troubling, to say the least.
Look, actuaries have predicted this thing long time ago. Actuaries have predicted this thing long time ago. These are even some of the reasons for the agitation of public sector workers for a new pension regime, right? The new pension regime is come in 2010, but what have we done? We have bastardized it. We have exempted certain category of Ghanaian workers from it. We have even siphoned funds that are supposed to go to tier twos to siphon their funds when the politician created the economic malaise that afflicted this country, that same politician came to the pensions and say, your investments, you cannot get the returns that you have agreed on your investment because I have created an economic mess and that you are going to pay for it. So they introduce what we call the haircut and so on and so forth. So the problem is that we have not held the political person or the political appointee or the people we voted for politically, we have not held them accountable. So they do whatever they like.
Mr. Kabonu, you're just saying they do whatever they like. You're just talking about the new pensions regime that you've been calling for, but it hasn't seen the light of day. But again, in this interview, you admit that the labor groups and leaders like yourself, you've not been as militant as you should have been on this matter. I'm talking about the government's indebtedness. They say it's better late than never. At this stage, when there's a warning right glaring at us, are you going to take action?
Well, I organized a press conference last week, which is necessitated even these discussions, demanding from government to pay money that they are holding from workers, and that if they don't do that, we don't have a choice than to embark on an industrial action. I did that. You see, the issue that we need to find ourselves in is that as a country, we should believe that we owe no politician an apology. And that no politician should feel that they are God's gift to us. The new pension regime is actually in operation. That is a 3-tier pension scheme. Government wants to interfere in the management and operation of the 3-tier pension scheme. Because of the money. Just because of the money. If you know the number of times that we've been able to fight off government attempts to control the tier 2 pension, if you know the number of times we fought it off and the difficulty in fighting it off, you will not believe it. But government never gives up because government is interested in any money that is lodged anywhere in this country. We will continue to fight it off. And we need the people of Ghana to support us to fight it off. We need the people of Ghana to support us to let the world know that the government of Ghana and the government of Ghana cannot take the people for a ride. As we speak, government is indebted to everything in the world. Everything government is indebted to. People's retirement and pension benefits, government is indebted to it. Union dues, government is indebted to it. What else is government not indebted to in this country?
So when I ask you about whether or not you're going to take action, I'm asking of an action like we saw with the pensioners when their monies were touched in the government domestic debt exchange program. That's the kind of action I'm asking of, whether you're going to toe similar lines.
We are going to take worse actions than that. We are going to take worse actions than that. And we are going to ensure that the government pays up, and they will pay up. They don't have a choice. We are going to ensure government pays up, and they must pay up.
Well, Mr. Kabonu, appreciate your time. Maybe quickly before I let you go, and I am saying that in the end, if nothing is done based on this ILO report by 2036, SNIT's reserves are expected to reach zero. I mean, as a stakeholder leading the National Association of Graduate Teachers, beyond demanding that payment be made, what other reforms would you expect being implemented to ensure that our pensions are safeguarded from these reckless investments that we have seen over the period?
The first and major reform I want to see is that government control and management of SNIT should be taken out. Government and then the president to stop appointing the Director General of SNIT. It's not the duty of a president to be appointed, and that the appointment will have to be put down by the various stakeholders and make SNIT legally an independent body that has the right to take monies from workers and invest those monies prudently and be answerable to the people whose money it is keeping in trust. That will be one of the major and most profound reforms that we will want to see. And when that is done, then we will all be confident that we are doing something positive and then we are moving somewhere.
I appreciate your time, Mr. Kabano. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Nagrat Angel Kabano, there.
We still do have with us Seth Ablosu, Labour analyst. Mr. Ablosu, if you can hear us, just one more question for you from me. I'm just looking at the recommendation or one of the recommendations from the ILO report in that executive summary where it talks about, I'll just read it. It says it's recommending the introduction of a pension payment instead of a lump sum when a member dies could be considered so as to be in accordance with ILO Convention number 102, despite Ghana not having ratified the convention itself. What do you make of this recommendation, bearing in mind that a lot of people depend on this lump sum?
Thank you. I will recommend that government ratifies the ILO Convention, as early as possible. And labor and employers should take this very. There's a lot of support we can get from the ILO if this is it. But we need to examine the recommendation very closely and place it in the public domain. Because you see, apart from all that the ILO has said, even as life expectancy increases in Ghana, the problem for SNIT on the country will be more worrying than meets the eye. So we need urgently to wake up.
So Tabloso, appreciate your time.
Which is in fact a private institution, belongs to the persons whose monies are in it, not for government.
Indeed. Acting General Secretary of the Professional and Allied Workers Union, Seth Abloso, Labour Consultant, joining us on this matter. Let's go on to some issues related to the SML and matters arising. We've been on this matter since yesterday after the President made known the public, as a matter of fact, his the response and recommendations on the KPMG findings. Strategic Mobilizations Ghana Limited has refuted the claim that it received 1,061,054,778 Ghana cedis as compensation for its contract with Ghana Revenue Authority, as stated in the KPMG audit report. In response to the findings, SML emphasized that the quoted figure by KPMG failed to consider the investment made by SML and the taxes paid during the period under review. In the report, which we have details of, it's going to go on our Facebook page in a bit, at 3FM927, it quotes that KPMG quotes a figure as compensation to SML. It is interesting to note that, quote, this figure is quoted without reference to the investments made and the taxes paid by SML over the period within the consolidated contract. The compensation of 1,061,054,778 Ghana cedis stated by KPMG is inaccurate, according to SML. Furthermore, SML highlighted that KPMG's report did not account for 31.5% of the total compensation, which was deducted as GRA taxes, creating a skewed perception of the financial dynamics involved. SML finds that KPMG's failure to state that GRA, actually the taxes of 31.5 was taken out, is one that they also want to state. Also, SML clarified that the audit assurance report by KPMG confirmed that it has not received a payment of $100 million from government. In fact, if you recall, the Fourth Estate film had alleged SML's contract was for 10 years, and SML in response says that based on this KPMG audit, that has been found out not to be true. But Adam Serrano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is one of a number of CSOs that have been following this particular issue quite closely. He's joining us on the telephone. Serrano, thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition. This is SML's response to this. Says, you know what? Yes, KPMG has done their report, they have done their own audit, but then again, that compensation of over 1 billion paid to them is inaccurate. It doesn't take into consideration, for instance, the investments that the SML have made and the taxes that were also deducted by GRA. Lozano.
Well, it's very curious for all of us. We don't have the full report, and yet SNL is giving feedback on this and taking a position. I think that for us to have an objective view of what KPMG has said, the entire report of KPMG should be in the public space for us to understand how KPMG arrived at this conclusion. It would be surprising for me that KPMG did not take into consideration whatever necessary deductions, etc., in arriving at this conclusion. And don't forget that they've been at this for quite some time before the report was released. So I'm not quite sure whether we should just take SNL's rebuttal on its face value and run with it. I think we need the entirety of KPMG's report first, and then based on that we can draw conclusions and probably do our own investigations to find out whether what SNL is now saying is actually accurate. In any case, if tax deductions have been made, bottom line, the payment, the overall invoice that you provided is what they will pay you on. So what was the invoice they paid you on? If there are tax deductions, it's fair to me if somebody would say that you invoice them a certain amount, if you are paid and then certain taxes were removed, it will not change the figure. So we need much more information to draw a conclusion.
So, and the full details of the report of this KPMG audit is one that will answer all these questions, at least for the media and then the civil society as well, is it not?
Yes, and I can't understand why anybody would do commentary on a report and not provide a report. We've said this time and time again that the presidency should not act as a clearinghouse.
I mean, say that, is that what it appears to be, that the presidency is just fulfilling that perception of it being a clearinghouse? Hello, Mizano.
Seems we've lost him there.
We'll try to raise Adam Sedano on the telephone back again. He's a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. If you're just joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale. We are live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. The Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited has refuted a claim that it received over 1 billion cedis in compensation for its contract with the Ghana Revenue Authority, as stated in the KPMG audit report. In response to the findings, SML emphasized that the quoted figure by KPMG failed to consider the investments made by SML and the taxes paid during the period under review. And that's why Demsano, as the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, has been responding to. Mesano, I lost you briefly, but you were making the point that the presidency should not be acting as a clearinghouse. And in this instance, has any of the actions fulfilled that kind of perception that has been had of the presidency over the period?
Yes, it does. I mean, it does. It really, really does not make sense that there is a report. We will not have access to the complete report, and somebody is making recommendations on the back of that report, but choosing and picking which sections of that report the rest of us see and are able to then understand. That's not fair to KPMG. And it's certainly not fair to all of us as Ghanaians. And I don't understand what is preventing the presidency or anyone there from releasing it. To the extent that the president has made recommendations, whoever is in charge, chief of staff, whoever, make sure the entire report is made available to civil society and media.
Mr. Senano, Beatrice here. I just want us to go to the response of SML again. If you look at that response, again, bearing in mind the audit report from KPMG said that SML partially delivered on some of the things it was contracted for. Again, it went on to also fault SML going ahead with the first contract that it had with the government, even without a PPA approval, and then went on to say certain contracts should be abrogated. But in that response from the SML, we don't see any of admissions on the part of SML. Are you surprised, or rather should I put it concerned?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, it's the choosing and picking that then everybody will pick the parts that they think make them look good and comment on it and leave other things. The KPMG report clearly stated that for 2017, I think to 2019 or so, there were 3 requests from PPA for a sole source procurement, which the PPA at the time denied. However, by 2020, you had a situation where when I think PPA membership had changed, etc., all of a sudden they have full approval with a retrospective ratification. That in itself raises a lot of eyebrow. If I were in government at the moment, I'll be asking for an investigation. What changed? Did the rules at PPA change? Or is it because the people at PPA changed? And if the rules are the same, how could we have a situation where in 2017 they could not get permission to do this single source procurement, but by 2020 they got? That is curious. There's also the issue of multi-year contracting, which should have gone through Parliament, which has not been done, and yet they had a contract. If you add that to the partial value for money they say we are getting, what does partial mean? 5%, 4%, 1%? You know, are there other companies whose competencies would have given us 100%, or let's say 75%, much more than what SNL is giving us? So without an entire report, at the moment people are picking, choosing, and trying to convince us. I think that is not the way to go. That's not systematic, and it's not going to allow the people of Ghana to get the best result from this kind of engagement.
You just mentioned a very important point. Are there companies that are competent enough to offer the same services? In that same report from KPMG, it said that certain services could be provided by SML in the future after a proper needs assessment has been done. And the argument of KPMG in that report was that SML at least has operated at the port for some time. Listening to the response from SML, do you think is a company that should be giving another chance in the future after a proper needs assessment is done on services that must be provided at the ports?
Well, I have very big questions about the ethical leadership that a company like SNL can provide. For some of us in the good governance space, ethical leadership is one of the most crucial things. Knowing what you should do, doing exactly that, and influencing everybody around you. It seems to me that SNL has influenced people to do the wrong thing. And if that's the kind of track record they want, they don't have the kind of ethical leadership I would want in terms of a company that is providing services to this country. Because we have a lot of issues where people's pockets are being filled because of a lack of ethical leadership. I would have great problems. If we're setting up criteria in selecting companies for the future, one of those criteria for me would be the historical track record of doing ethical businesses across the continent and beyond the continent. And for that, I would be faulting them already. But beyond that, yes, there may be certain things that if we find that there's nobody else providing, we may now want to look at where they failed in the past and tell them if you beef A up and B up, we may consider it. But at this point, I have great difficulty in understanding how a company that was willing to go ahead knowing full well the laws of this country should still be one of those at the forefront of any competition in the future to get an opportunity to serve this country.
Wend it here. Thank you very much, Adam Senanu, anti-corruption campaigner, co-chair, Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Let's take you to the Ashanti region because the staff of the Electricity Company of Ghana say that they will meet to determine their next line of action. This follows the refusal by the Ashanti Regional Minister to render an apology for role in the arrests of the Ashanti, the regional boss of the company. The senior and junior staff unions had demanded that the minister apologizes for reporting the ECG Ashanti East General Manager Michael Asumani-Wiafe to the police, leading to his arrest. The minister's action stemmed from the disconnection of power supply to the Kumasi Technical University by ECG Revenue Task Force. On Wednesday, workers of the power distributor began hoisting red flags across ECG offices nationwide as they piled pressure on the minister to do the needful. However, Simon Osemensa says he cannot render an apology for performing his duties. Listen.
Nobody can stop me and the Regional Security Council from performing our security responsibilities as enshrined under the Constitution. I ask the police to invite Engineer Mark Asumani-Wiafe on security grounds because of the happenings in the electricity power sector in the region. And the fact that a task force can always come from outside to disconnect without the proper information. What is ironical is that they tell me they are not under me, and for that matter, I cannot tell them what to do, but they want to tell me how I have to execute my security responsibilities as enshrined in the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act of 2020, Act 1030. They want to tell me. But they say I cannot tell them what to do. And I want to also tell them what they stated in their publication, I think on the 18th of April 2024, that their managers are members of the Regional Security Council is palpable false. They are not members of the Regional Security Council.
So you heard that the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei Mensah telling the ECG officials in the Ashanti region that he will not apologize because he did his job as the head of the Regional Security Council. But this is coming at a time where the ECG board chair, Herbert Krapper, together with the president, are promising that the intermittent power supply is being worked on, and then very soon it will be a thing of the past. Just listen to him again.
His Excellency the President has personally led arrangements, financial and operational, to ensure that the current power outages that we Ghanaians are feeling in the country in a few days will be a thing of the past. His Excellency the President has led all of us in the power sector to ensure that we're putting arrangements in place, procure additional fuel, run all our thermal plants and power producing plants at full capacity. And His Excellency the President has also led realignment of operational and technical arrangements in the entire power sector value chain, which is the reason I'm able to assure the people of Ghana that in the next few days, the power challenges that we are seeing under the leadership of His Excellency the President, it will be a thing of the past.
It will be a thing of the past. That was Herbert Krapper there speaking to the media earlier. And Alfred, I know we do have a representative of the ECG workers in the Ashanti region, right?
Yusuf Osman is the Ashanti East ECG Senior Staff Union Chair. He's joining us on the telephone. Yusuf Osman, I appreciate your time. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening, Alfred, and my lady there.
That is Beatrice. Yeah. Wait, this is the response of the Ashanti Regional Minister to your demands for an apology. He says he cannot comply with the demand for an apology from you, the staff of ECG, for performing his duties, because ECG had agreed with the Kumasi Technical University to settle their debt within an agreed time frame. So he didn't understand why you had gone to disconnect the electricity.
Thank you, Alfred. Good evening to our listeners. I have not been able to go through the statement in entirety, but what I can say is that from the points that I've raised, I am not so much surprised that he said he is not going to apologize to us. But I'm disappointed, highly disappointed.
Well, why are you disappointed in the first? What were you expecting?
Yes, we were expecting him to be a gentleman enough, because if I scan through the statements, there are a lot of inaccuracies in what he is saying.
For instance?
Well, for instance, as I said, I just scanned through, and the first one is he saying that we stated that our general managers are automatic members of the RESEC. I'm surprised he was referring to an online article. The man was giving a letter. We gave him a letter. Why is he not referring to the letter? He was only responding to the invitation to the general manager. And we are telling you they are not honoring the invitation. So you withdraw the case from the police station and render an unqualified apology. And you are telling us that, I can't understand him.
I see that from what I'm reading from our sources in your office, there was some form of agreement. That's what the minister was referring to, that the agreement was between the ECG and the Ashanti East region, and then also the Kumasi Technical University, that some 60% of the bills owed by Kumasi Technical University from August 2023 to December will be paid 2 weeks every month. That accumulated difference of 40%. Is that the case?
Alfred, thank you. If you go through the statement, at the bottom part, you were saying that even if the KSU defaulted, ECG should have come for him for another negotiation. You should inform him before you go ahead. So it means he's aware that they defaulted. If they are not paying, check through the statement. You will see. The agreement is that if you default, it means that we don't have any agreement with you.
So, really, tell me about your colleague and the manager who was arrested upon the instruction of the minister. How is it doing? I mean, after all what he had been subjected to because of just doing his job.
Yes, he's going on his job. He's doing fantastically, very well. He's in high spirits and he's working.
So we know that for some hours you've been hosting red flags. We heard also of an emergency meeting that you're going to have. Are you able to tell us what you're going to do next, especially in the face of this response from the regional minister?
Yes. Some of the decisions were taken by NEC, and we will have a little time to go through the statement. As I said, I just can't through it. And I've seen a lot of inaccuracies. For instance, the minister was trying to hide behind the president, that we don't even monitor his feeders when he comes, which I think it is never true. We don't even know the itinerary of the president. You don't inform us. The last time the president came to Kumasi, we had a complaint that where he was lodging is off. Alfred, you can check from our control room. The reports are there. The feeders were on. Our officers drove to where the presidents were lodging, and they were on. It was an internal problem. Why do you tell the whole world that we put the president off? Is it fair to ECG? So it was clearly, I told you I wasn't surprised he didn't apologize. I wasn't surprised because in the morning someone told me this man, he will not apologize. So I'm not surprised.
I see. So what's going to be the next step? In fact, after hoisting of these, the red flags we're seeing, the number of your officers, what next?
The red will continue to be there until a decision is taken by Ashanti Caucus and the NEC.
And does that include you going on strike? Because that's what we're also picking up.
Alfred, let's not rush. The decision will come. We'll work with you. The information will come.
Well, so the minister says, I'm not going to apologize. That's what you were demanding. So
that's why I'm saying that I'm not surprised, because I was told before his press conference that the honorable minister is not going to apologize.
Your source in the minister's office told you that he won't apologize.
No, I'm not the source, but I think people who knew he's not going to apologize. So we are not surprised at all. We are only disappointed because we thought that he would do the needful and then so that we work together as one people. Because what he did, these actions was unnecessary.
And the apology was for causing the arrest of the manager.
Precisely. Ask the minister, when did he tell the general manager that he will report him to the police? And when was the police midnight called this old man? Why do you do that?
He was arrested at midnight.
Fair? No. He has to plead with the police that he will report in the morning.
I see. Osman, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us on this matter.
Thank you, Alfred. God bless you.
Bless you too. Yusuf Osman is the Ashanti East ECG Senior Staff Union Chairman, joining us on this. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also, we're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. 7 minutes sort of the hour, 6 p.m. Loads of your messages coming up at 3FM 927. Keep sending us your messages, read out to you and to the rest of the world at 3FM 927 on Facebook. Also on X at 3FM 927. We'll go for the business news with Juliana Menuafol, after which, getting to the sports news, we're back with Campaign Trail here on your Election Command Center. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the first Edinkra International Arts and Crafts Show in Ghana. Organized by the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, this 10-day festival will be a celebration of functional arts and crafts, home decorations, jewelry and textiles, with export forums on the sidelines. Date 26th April to 5th May 2024. Venue, Papaye Recreational Center, Ibri. Time, 10 a.m. each day. Get ready to immerse yourself in a world of creativity and culture, surrounded by the breathtaking beauty of Ibri.
To register as an exhibitor, kindly visit gepafairs.org or call +233 24 470 6112 or +233 20 955 6525. Edinkra International Arts and Crafts Show. See you there.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
That clearly tells you that these gentlemen are ready. 3FM Tour to Ghana. And this is a 3FM Tour to Ghana. You know what time of the year it is.
These are the men who matter.
And they are the guys who are going to be showing us what they are made of.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. With me, Menu Afo. Coming up, Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority calls for collaboration with taxpayers to enhance collection. We have the details coming up in the next 5 minutes. Stay with me. Now the details. Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority, Julie Esiam, has underscored the need for collaboration between the authority and taxpayers to enhance revenue collection. She made the remarks during a tax education exercise at Malamata Market in Accra by women in taxation. This report has the rest of the story.
With the current restrictions to access funds from the international market, domestic revenue mobilization has become crucial for government expenditure. The Ghana Revenue Authority, in collaboration with women in taxation, has embarked on an exercise to educate Ghanaians, especially in the informal sector, on the need to fulfill their tax obligations.
We are leveraging off the month of April that we have identified to be a taxation and good governance day to build collaboration and partnership with taxpayers. Taxpayers are not only the corporates. Taxpayers are you and me. Taxpayers are personal income taxpayers. Taxpayers are the informal sector, a very significant part of our population. So today we came here to collaborate as the authority that collects taxes, to collaborate with our taxpayers in this market, to help them to understand taxation.
President of the Society of Women in Taxation, Isiduma Sam, stressed the need for continuous tax educations as tool to improve compliance.
What we want to achieve is that people will have the knowledge of tax. When somebody understands tax fully, when they come to when the tax officers come to you, you won't argue too long. You won't argue too long because you know it's your responsibility. Your civic responsibility is that pay taxes.
Well, in more stories, Imani Center for Policy and Education has underscored the importance of climate-smart enterprises in Ghana's fight against climate change. Research finding on constraints of green business in collaboration with Ghana Climate Innovation Center indicates that the sector is bedeviled with several problems inhibiting growth and sustainability despite their numerous advantages. Senior research fellow at Imani CPE, Dennis Asari, believes support for these businesses is a fight against the devastating effects of climate-related problems as well as creating sustainable jobs.
The reason why we want everybody to pay attention to climate change is that it is affecting every fabric of our life. And the risks that it poses, it's very severe and it can push a lot more people into poverty. Green businesses are important because they are actually adopting green solutions that do not only support economic growth, but also support environmental sustainability. And they have the capital, the technology that will help us achieve the climate targets we have set for ourselves. So if we don't support green businesses, we wouldn't be able to help the SMEs or the businesses whose solutions are needed for our climate action. That is why we should pay attention to green businesses or climate smart enterprises. Another important point is that as we are all working towards environmental sustainability and environmental protection, we must pay attention to the SMEs who are actually leveraging those opportunities, because through that they are creating sustainable jobs, they are creating sustainable income, and also contributing to all the solutions that we need to put together to address the climate crisis in Ghana.
Dennis Asari is a senior research fellow at Imani Center for Policy and Education. Meanwhile, Chief Executive and Team Lead for Farmio Limited, a climate-smart agribusiness, Anapoka Adazabra, urged managers of green business to reach out to numerous technical partners in the country to take advantage of the available opportunities.
Green businesses have the onus upon ourselves to be able to equip ourselves both formally, financially, preparing our internal organization setups to be able to receive this kind of external support. And so I will encourage green businesses to reach out to various technical partners. People like Ghana Climate Innovation Center is one of them. They have been able to basically incubate businesses through 9 months, teaching them how to basically set up their business strategies, financials, recording and keeping important data, building partnerships with the right people, connecting with each other. Doing all of these things help basically build up your profile and be, in a sense, investor ready to receive both technical assistance and financial assistance when support is finally rendered to these companies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Well, you heard the voice of Anapoka Adazabra, Chief Executive and Team Lead for Farmio Limited, and that brings us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition. For more stories, please log on to our website on 3news.com. My name is Minu Aful. Do stay tuned. My colleague Bill Ishen is on standby with the sports news.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. Now, 4 Ghanaian para-athletes are in Morocco for the 2024 Marrakesh World Paralympics Grand Prix competition. Now, the tournament set for April 22 to 28 is a qualification event for the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. The athletes selected are Amos Ahiaga, Dainaku Betel, Zinabu Issa and Edmond Govina. These athletes will participate in multiple track and field events. Now, Coach Ibrahim Aminu Suleiman believes that this team can qualify to the 2024 Paralympic Games later this year.
I have confidence in him because of what we have done. Now, I've already told them that this is an opportunity to all of them. They should come out and bring the best out of them. They shouldn't be afraid of anybody. on the track.
They shouldn't be afraid of anybody on the track, according to the coach, that is Ibrahim Aminu Suleiman. Now, to some football news, Egyptian giant Zamalek have touched down in Kumasi for the crucial CAF Confederation Cup game against Dreams FC. Sunday's game will be the second leg of the semi-final clash in the second-tier interclub competition on the continent. Now, the Ghanaians, who are playing in the competition for the first time, held the White Kings to a goalless draw in the first leg. Legon City's coach Parkwesi Fabian was full of praise for the achievements of Dreams FC in the CAF Confederation Cup this season ahead of their second leg encounter against Zamalek. He's hopeful that the Still Believe boys can earn extra slots for Ghana in CAF competitions.
Let me first of all congratulate Dreams FC for a wonderful job, especially my senior, I call him my senior, Karim Zito, for a wonderful job that he has done with Dreams FC in Africa. We are rooting that they will be able to clinch the trophy so that at least we will get the 4 slots back into Ghana. But I think playing in Africa and playing in the local league is a different ball game altogether. So we'll see when we beat them, we'll see what will happen. I think when we get to the bridge, we shall definitely cross it.
Now let's move on to European football. Barcelona fans were expecting a new coach at the end of the season after Xavi Hernandez announced his exit from the club. But the former player has made a U-turn and is set to stay at the club until 2025. This explainer by Enoch Fifi Forsen looks at his achievements as a Barcelona manager so far.
So on Wednesday, there was a meeting at Barcelona president Juan Laporta's house where Xavi committed to the club, reversing his initial decision to leave the club. The good news for Barcelona fans is the fact that Xavi is going to continue, and if you look at his track record since taking over in November 2021, the club has improved. If you look at how he won the league last season, ending a 4-year drought, and also restoring confidence in the youngsters, you've seen the likes of Paul Kubasi, Lamine Yamal, Gavi. So on Wednesday, there was a meeting playing at a very high level. So if you look at this decision, it's very good for the club. But one thing that the club has also assured Xavi Hernandez is the fact that they are going to return to the 1-1 rule, which is the fact that Barcelona can spend any amount of euro they bring in. At first, Barcelona were operating on a 1 versus 4, which means they had to bring in 4 to be able to spend 1. But the club has assured Xavi, and he is confident the big men at the top are going to work very well to restore the club to the 1 versus 1 rule. Should the club meet the 1v1 rule, they are certainly going to invest in the right players and improve the squad going into next season.
Improving the squad going into next season. That was an explainer by my colleague Enoch Fifi Forsen. Now later tonight, Manchester City will face Brighton in an effort to close the gap at the top of the table in the Premier League. The Citizens are 4 points behind leaders Arsenal, who have 77 points so far. Head coach Pep Guardiola has been speaking ahead of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So they give us a chance. The fact that they lost the last weeks against Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, but we know exactly what we should do then, before that games and now. We have to be all games to be at the end have a chance in our hands to to retain the title. So nothing changing in the fact that what should do before and now nothing changed.
That was Pep Guardiola, the head coach of Manchester City. Now, before I do go, here are the lineups of the two teams. Manchester City are facing Brighton tonight at 7 p.m. For Manchester City, Ederson is in goal. In defense, you have Vardio, Ake, Akanji, and Kyle Walker. In midfield, you have Kovacic, Rodri, and De Bruyne. In attack, we have Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, and Julian Alvarez. For Brighton and Hove Albion, we have Steele in goal, Veltman, Van Hecke, Dunk and Baku in defense. In midfield, we have Gross, Baleba, Lallana, Mode, and Joao Pedro. And in attack, we have Danny Welbeck, who was a former player of Arsenal and Manchester United. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. And of course, the Hot Edition continues.
have made the best choice for Ghana. Together, we'll work for the women of Ghana, we'll work for the youth of Ghana, we'll work for the people of Ghana. I assure you, you have my fullest and unalloyed support. You have the fullest support of the NDC and the support of millions of Ghanaians, including young people who you have either directly trained in your long career as an educationist of repute, or those who you have inspired by your stellar achievements.
I will share collective successes and share responsibility for our setbacks, if any. And at the time of reckoning, Your Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I will not, in the advancement of self-serving ambition, declare to the whole world that I was only the driver's mate. Opportunity to heal our country again. It is about the opportunity to pull Ghana back from the precipice of destruction, of normalizing corruption, of incomprehensive greed, from deep despair. Some of us have been around for a while and have experienced the to and fro of politics in Ghana, but never have we experienced levels of greed, unbridled arrogance, unrestrained impunity, sheer dishonesty, barefaced hypocrisy, incompassion, as displayed by this incumbent government over the past 6 years and more. Electoral Commission, I address you directly. It is in the national interest and in your own interest to make transparent what has been and is going on in your establishment. The truth will not be suppressed. You cannot be so independent as to disregard the people who validate your existence. It does not happen anywhere. Easy. A word to the wise is in Asen North.
Marks a very important landmark towards our march towards victory 2024. And on occasions like this, we must assess ourselves and identify the risks ahead of our journey to victory. I don't intend to spoil the mood, but let me say that we are happy that the polls are projecting a massive victory for us, both for President Mahama and for a resounding majority in Parliament in 2025. But I like to caution that polls results alone don't constitute victory for any political party. And we must be aware that our opponents have a lot of money and they are going into the vote market with a lot of looted cash. One of the first major risks that we face is to pretend to compete with them in the game of vote buying. No matter what we do, we cannot mobilize enough resources to be able to compete with them in money politics. And indeed, they will be happy if we move the battle away from principles, from integrity, from honesty and truthfulness, to the battle of who pays higher. So I'd like to caution all of us that don't let us abandon the tool we are more comfortable with.
And that was the chairman, the national chairman of the opposition NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, speaking here on Campaign Trail on Hot Edition. We are joined on the line now by the communications director for the governing NPP, Richard Ahiagba. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Generally, what do you make of the message Jenna Opoku put out? There were some shades for the MPP and Dr. Baumia as well, you know.
Yes, I think, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I listened to their program yesterday in and out. I'm in a Juso trying to replace our MP who has passed away. But much of everything they said, for me, didn't amount to anything new. It's just the same old group of people trying to pretend as though they are new. They're the same old people who messed this country's economy up without any extenuating circumstances to induce the hardship they put us through. The magnitude of hardship the NDC brought upon us as people is unprecedented. Today we have difficulties, but the reasons for the difficulties we have today is not quite what we went through under the NDC. So for them, they are talkers, they are not doers. And for that, yesterday they grouped to talk again, but I can guarantee you, per their record, they are not doers and they can't do anything, or they will not do any of the things they said. Now, interesting about Jenna Asiedun Ketia's comment about MPP going into the voters' market with looters' money and the rest of things that he's talking about. I think that is a first-class reckless statement by a seasoned politician like him. Very reckless statement. Democracy is not about vote buying. If we see that happening anywhere, we must condemn it. We must continuously improve our system to make it reflect a true will of the people to select who their leaders ought to be. So to stand on such a high podium and promote the idea or even create the impression that it's okay or a political party is invested in any such thing, I think is that the first-class reckless statement of this for the public that he's made, and I think that he needs not make such statements again. Number two, he talked about, I don't know if you played that one, but he was mentioning about how is it that their party needed to pay attention and not start sharing positions and things like that even before they win the election, which I know they won't. Just tells you the state of mind of the NDC. They are not about the people. They are not about governance. They are coming, as the Supreme Court judge says, one is to create, loot, and share. That is what the NDC has always been about. I've been around long enough to see their first government under Rawlings and what happened under John Mahama and Professor John Evans at Mills. We saw an unprecedented rot under them. And so they are setting up to fleece this country once again. And that's what you see even before they had any remote opportunity to access power. They have decided to be sharing among themselves, positioning themselves for the spoils of this country. And we believe that this is evidence, it's a sneak peek that the country must see and stay away from the NDC. They are not an option. They shouldn't be an option for Ghanaians. And in December, we should show them that we will not give them this country to fleece again.
Ms. Anyagba, are you describing the statement by Asiedun Ketia as reckless because it is untrue, or you think that probably you're not happy that he used that platform? I know you mentioned certainly that he used that platform to say that.
I am saying that Jenna Asiedun Ketia is a seasoned politician. We admire him. He's been in this business for quite a long time. And for him to create the impression that it's okay, somehow, that's what a political party, the standing of New Patriotic Party, is going to buy votes, is coming with looters' money.
So you're denying that?
I'm saying that. What is the evidence of what he's saying? That we're going to the voters' market with looters' money. That's the most reckless statement of anybody in his standing to make.
You're saying
so
it's
not
untrue.
necessarily that I like it or I don't like it. Yes, we've heard about people paying transportation for people, which it is done across. But to say that people are going to buy votes with looters' money, I think is a reckless statement.
So,
that statement cannot. That statement cannot be accepted to be normal. It's not acceptable. We shouldn't encourage it, at least not from somebody in his standing.
You still haven't answered the question. You're saying it is not true that the MPP is going to buy votes come December 7. You're saying it's not true.
But what's the evidence? The thing has not happened. What is the evidence?
So that's not something you're going to do.
Is there evidence of the looters' money he's talking about? Does he have? Does he know an account created in any bank
so
or
I'm
anywhere
asking you're saying
that this is a looters' money we are going to use to buy votes? It's
so
the most reckless statement. I think we should be clear about that. The thing has not happened. There's no evidence of anything something like that happening, and he's putting that idea out there. For what reason? And I'm saying that any odd person can do it, but not someone in his standing. He's been the beginning of this Fourth Republic. He's been there. So he is a senior, seasoned politician. I think that's most unfortunate he made that comment.
Okay, so I would take it that you don't want to answer that question directly, but I want to take you back.
As in whether your question. I don't know which other direct way do you want to answer.
Let's just move on. You talk about the fact that the NDC messed up the country and is the same old party that wants to come back, but the party is also accusing you of being the same, and is the reason that party feels that a lot of Ghanaians are equally disappointed. Inflation, I know inflation has gone down, but it reached over 50%.
Yeah.
Yes, so you're saying that NDC messed up the economy, but currently Ghanaians are accusing you of doing the same thing, and is the reason they are even raising questions about Dr. Baumia, who was preaching as the savior of the economy, and critics are asking how far did he save Ghana's economy?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think I answered your question, except you want to ask the question. So you like direct answers. So the point earlier on I was making to you is that, yes, we are in a difficult situation, but the reasons we are here, okay, are quite different, are quite compelling, are ones that you can trace to the rest of the world, that almost every economy in this world is struggling. So if, in other words, if you're going to say that Ghana's economy is not doing well, you must as well say that the global economy is not doing well. The factors that are driving us here are global. They are such that there was nothing you could have done to stay the hand off the difficulties that we're in. Because before 2020, you knew and you are aware how this economy was performing, right? We're growing over a 3-year period, 7% on average. Inflation was down. We got inflation down to about 7.8 or so. Before, in 2020, before this phenomenon of the COVID situation started to take everything out of balance, and then was exacerbated in 2022 by the Russia-Ukraine war. Those are realities. Those are things that didn't happen when NDC messed this economy up and took us to IMF. When they took over this economy, you know where the economy was in 2009, January, when the NDC took it over. Okay, our debt at the time was about 9.5 billion when the NDC took up.
I don't think you want us to go into the debt because we know how much we owe now because we are over 500 billion.
I'm quite comfortable, except you don't have time. I'm quite comfortable to debate the debt matter of this country.
You've added more debt. You would admit that.
It's not. You see, our debt has gone up. Factors that led to that can't be explained. I'm telling you that the singular or the twin factors of COVID and Russia-Ukraine, you would agree, except that people are, for political convenience, people are not agreeing to the fact. There is no denying the fact that the global economy, Ghana's economy, has never been the same from when COVID happened.
Mr. Nyagba, I want you to hold your breath there. I just want you to hold on. We also do have on the line with us Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbande. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
You've heard Richard Ahiagba there, essentially saying that the NDC cannot be trusted to be given the country again because you messed up the country before the MPP took over. And the reason Ghana is in its current hardship, as it were, can be explained. Yours, probably you just literally messed up the country. How do you respond to that?
Thank you. And Good evening to my brother at the other side. I must commend him because he's into a very difficult job as a communication director when he has witnessed, experienced the level of recklessness, the heightened level of corruption, the level at which even young appointees have been seen and known to be dissipating state resources. At places where they can destroy, they are destroying. In fact, as recent as their own presidential primaries, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was seen bribing even regional executives with pickups. It is not NDC that is saying it. It is their own NPP people who have said it, other aspirants who were running the race with the vice president, who have exposed the vice president, who claim he is not corrupt. Yet, 6 years being in power as a vice president, when the MPP is running to the rooftop, that there was COVID and all sort of things, the economy was down, the vice president has such money to that magnitude to bribe delegates. And Ahagba is denying vote buying. When we went to Asen North, what didn't we see? They were sharing well over 400 cities, 500 cities, 200 cities per voter. The people even composed a song that Yabeji Kennedy, Yabetu Tiamo. The same thing is about to repeat in Ejiso. And he's denying vote buying. He's in a difficult situation where his government is corrupt, the president is corrupt. How many African presidents were renting private jets when COVID broke out? How many African presidents supervised his appointees to dissipate and steal COVID relief funds, misappropriate same, misapply? He can go and read the Auditor General's report, and he will see it right there. How many African presidents did that? We are not talking about natural phenomena. We are talking about a president who is corrupt. We are talking about a president whose appointees are publicly corrupt. We know even the involvement of the current vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in the gold for oil scandal. We know, and he knows that we know it. What became of that deal? We are aware. And so when you come on radio and a communication director, you have to defend and to whitewash a party that have sunk so low, a government that is close to collapsing as a result of public perception of corruption. Every young person in this country knows that President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia's governance is the most corrupt government we have ever had.
Mr. Bande, Mr. Anyagba, I will let you respond to some of the allegations there. But Mr. Bande, before Mr. Anyagba comes in to respond, won't you certainly admit, indeed, that the doomsaw, for instance, under NDC was so massive, so many people lost their jobs. You wouldn't even talk about those who claimed that some people died. The NPP also has the counter allegation, as it were, of going to an IMF when we didn't have COVID-19, or we didn't have COVID, and we didn't have a Russia-Ukraine war.
We are comparing apples to mangoes. You are comparing a leadership. Doomsaw came up as a result of population growth, energy consumption gap deficits, and we took responsibilities, stood with Ghanaians, and said there was doomsaw, we admit, and that the situation was being resolved. In fact, a whole minister was sacked for failing to live by timelines until doomsaw crisis was resolved. We handed over a country without doomsaw. But then we are having on the other side a very dishonest group of people who are shamefully not admitting that even when they have touted that they have built a lot of factories and have not produced a single cent of energy, when they know that the population of Ghana have increased over the past 7 years, and that it is normal that we have energy issues, they are not admitting that we are in that situation. When even residents and the people of Ghana experience Dumso, a whole energy minister says he doesn't call it Dumso. Can you compare these two groups of people, which is honest and which is not honest?
Mr. Agbande,
it's about responsible governance. They have not demonstrated responsibility. They have not demonstrated seriousness. And same, they don't know how to resolve it.
We are running out of time. Let me get a quick response from Richard Ahiagba. You've got about 30 seconds. Mr. Agbande talks about heightened tension. He talks about Dr. Baumia, the running mate of the governing party, bribing. That's his allegation there. And emphasizes this honesty on the part of this government. How do you respond to it?
Let me pick a few that I know I can talk about. My brother keeps talking about corruption. The only way you can measure corruption is through our processes in the courts, because our laws allow for presumption of innocence until found guilty. Now, how many MPP people can my brother Mustafa tell me have been tried for corruption and found guilty? If he can tell me any, We'll do that in January 2025. The point I want to make to him, as we speak, where we stand in the record of this Fourth Republic, there is no other political party but the National Democratic Congress whose officials, whose former ministers, whose former appointees, recently, my own sister, Sedinam Tamaklo, was found duly by our courts to have corrupted herself. In the earlier administrations of the NDC, you know about the story to do with Dr. Kwame Pepra, you know to do with Victor Solomon, you know to do with Honorable Dana Bodakwe. You know these people have been tried. That is the only point you can ever say with confidence that that person working is corrupt. What the NDC is doing is to hurl corruption at the MPP. You know this when you were in this country in the 2008 election. The NDC sat on the rooftops and so MPP is corrupt. MPP is corrupt. They came to office on the back of corruption. NDC sat in power for 8 solid years. They didn't try anybody. Now Mustafa is telling me that 2025 will find out the same old playbook. The NDC is busy. They are specialists in talking. They can talk for you to think that the world is coming to an end. All they can do is talk. The NDC cannot produce anything in terms of development for this country. So I'm challenging Mustafa to say that when they are saying corruption, they have no evidence, proper evidence to say so. They said it the last time that the government was corrupt, Kufuor's government was corrupt, talk about many scandals. They came, they have not found a single human being guilty. What they are saying now, trying to besmirch the character and the good performance of this government, is the same old playbook to attack, dirty, and there's no evidence at the end of the day to say that this new patriotic government is corrupt. And we know this is their playbook, and we are determined to ensure that Ghanaians will know they know the NDC for who they are and not fall for their lie this time. And vote for Dr. Baumia and the New Patriotic Party to continue to bring this economy back to the pre-COVID.
I'm sorry, we'll have to end it here with you. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. You heard Richard Ahiagba. He's the Director of Communications for the MPP. Earlier, you also heard Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Agbande. Thank you for speaking to us both. And that's how we end Hot Edition here on 3FM. My name is Beatrice. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Have a good evening.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
From all over the country and even beyond, they are coming to take their place at the table of champions. It's not just a race, it is a movement.
3FM presents Tour du Ghana 2024.